Nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Do we want to put it up onto the screen or should we just have them log in?
Why don't we just log in?
Okay.
Unless you want to. I guess we can.
Yeah, let's do it up on the screens. Then we don't have to.
There's really no reason not.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yay, Marianne, I'm so glad you're teaching.
That's Marianne Thorham.
Yay. Janet, before they get started, did we close the curtains in the family center? I don't remember if we did. If not, you'll have to do that.
Close the what?
Close the drapes.
Oh, we'll get it. Thank you.
Okay,
We'll get it. Thank you very much.
sorry, spaced that one.
Not a problem.
Welcome to our training tonight. My name is Marianne Bates, and I'm a family history consultant here at the Granite Family History Center. I'm also a ward consultant in my ward, which is the Silvercrest ward in the Santa Canyon View Stake. And I'm grateful to be here with you tonight. We're going to talk about indexing. I love indexing. I'm currently doing a service mission for family search. And we help to get records ready for indexing. And we also are involved in doing special indexing projects. So for example, one of the projects that I've been able to work on has been census records of Native Americans here in the United States. And it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to read and help with those records. So to start with, I just want to talk a little bit about why indexing is important. And I think, as you probably know, indexing helps patrons to be able to add people to the family tree. It helps members to be able to reserve names for the temple. It helps to fill in blanks in people's lives and to find interesting facts about their ancestors. And for people who think that all of their family history work is done, it's also a way that you can be involved in family history work and help others. So it really is a wonderful opportunity. So I just want to mention here at the beginning that everything I'm going to talk to you about tonight can be found in the Family History Guide. So I've taken my outline of what I'm going to do tonight from the Family History Guide. And so make sure you come back here. If you're here, you just go to Family Search and go down to indexing. And there are several different projects that you can do that have to do with indexing. We aren't going to talk very much about reading difficult handwriting, but we will try and do everything else that is here in the guide, but it will be rather quick. So it would be a great idea to go back and to go through these instructions and go read some of the information and look at some of the videos that are provided in the Family History Guide. So just to start with, I want to show you what of indexing. So I'm going to show you a picture. So this is a picture of my grandmother. Her name was Mary Ann Hamilton, and she left Ireland in 1912. And this is a picture that was taken of her the day that she left Ireland. And we always knew that she had come first to Canada and then to the United States, but we didn't know, couldn't find any details about where she had gone. And we've been looking for probably about 10 years, my sisters and I. And finally, about 2 or 3 years ago, some records were indexed that were border crossings. And we first were able to find this document right here, which is a manifest of alien passengers who were applying for permission. And in it, part of our problem was that she went by a number of different names, but most of the time she was Molly. We found Molly Hamilton, who you can see right here. And we knew it was her because we knew she had been laundress. And then over here, it talks about her dad, Andrew James Hamilton, and has her address in Ireland. And this border crossing didn't really tell us too much other information, but from it, we were able to find another document that showed us so much about what had happened to her and what her journey was to the United States. It showed us that she went to St. John's, Canada, that she came on the ship to Toniac, and the date of it. And it showed the person that she was going to live with in the United States in Pennsylvania. So all of this information came to us because somebody had indexed a record. So I'm so grateful for the people that take the time to do indexing so that they can help others like me to be able to find information about their ancestors. Okay, so to start out today, to get started, the first thing that you have to do in indexing, of course, is to sign in. And then after you've done that, let's see if I can get to my indexing page. I'm going to just go to
You want to eat later?
Family Search and show you. This is what you would find when you first log into Family Search. And to get to indexing, it's really easy. You go up here to the top, and right down here in the tabs, one of them says indexing. So you click on that, and we're going to talk about all of these different areas, but usually when you come into index, you're going to want to go to this link right here that says web indexing. That's going to be the easiest way to get to a batch that you want to use. So to start with, I'm just going to show you these different tabs across the top here. The first one is an overview tab, and it has several different sections in it. The first one is find a project, where you can find a project using the map. And you can also access that map up here in this other tab that says find a project. For me, I think it's easier to find a project using a drop-down menu that I'm going to show you a little bit later on. But I'll also show you how to find a project using the map in just a minute. But that's available on this page and also on the Find a Project page. Also under the overview is this try a guided tour. And I would really suggest to you that if you've never done any indexing, that you take advantage of the guided tour, because it will be a review of everything that I am going to teach tonight. But it's also just a great example that you can go back to if you have questions about different parts of the indexing process. And then down here is a section that's called Get Help. And if you click on that, you can see they have another link to the guided tour. There's help articles that you can access. There's language and handwriting helps. And then there's also a community help forum where you can ask questions in a chat and find answers to problems that you might have. So that's the overview section. Then the next section is called web indexing. And this is where I like to go to find my batches. We're going to come back to it in a minute, but I just want to show you this other link right here, which is find a project. And find a project is where you can go to find a project using a map. So let's say that you have ancestors, well, or let's say you want to index in a place that's not the United States. So I went on my mission to Venezuela. So I'm going to look down here, and sure enough, it looks like there are some indexing batches from Venezuela. So I'm going to click on that. And if I wanted to, it looks like right here, I could click on this and I could index the civil registration batch from 1873 to 2004. So that's one way that you can do it. And for South America, it's not very big. If you click on the United States, you'll see that there's lots and lots of projects that you can choose from. Usually, it looks like some of these, it's like they don't have very much up on the map right now. So you might have to go to the drop-down menu to do that. All right, this website is constantly changing, so it looks different than it looked this morning, if you can believe it. All right, so the next one is indexing help. And here, once again, you've got links to the guided tour, to help articles, those same things that you found on that beginning help page. So now let's go to web indexing, and I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way to try and find a batch. Because what you need to do first is check out a batch that you can actually index. So, and I didn't explain that, so I'm going to go back. So what you do is you just go up to this blue button and you click where it says find a batch. And when you do that, it brings up all of the batches that are currently available. Now, if you're just beginning indexing, you're not going to see this review part right here. After you have indexed 1,000 records, then you are eligible to review records. But probably if you're just beginning, you'll just see this index right here. And then you can look at all of the different records that there are to index. And I have to tell you that you might not see exactly what is on my screen because I have records that are just being done by missionaries in my mission. But these three down up here at the top, I know are batches that are being currently done. At least they were this morning. So unless things have changed since this morning. So once you get here, there's a lot of different ways that you can choose your batch. So first of all, if you go up here, you can sort in different ways. So you could sort by difficulty, you could sort them A to Z, you can go newest to oldest, you can see the ones that are the least complete. So you could see maybe how you could be of the most help. Those are all different ways that you can sort. You can also search. So if you have ancestors from, let's say from England, and you wanted to do an England batch, you could type in England. And up comes, for me, a batch that I could do that is an English record. So that's a good way to get to a state, maybe a state or a type of record. So my daughter, she loves to do death records. So she could put in death and find all of the death records that were available to be able to index. Another way that you can sort is by difficulty level. And a lot of times, if you only check beginning, you're not going to be able to find, I'm going to get rid of this search and just do a search for everything that's in beginning. You can see at the present time, there's only 2 different records that are available that are beginning. But let me encourage you to also check intermediate, because intermediate are a little bit harder, sometimes because of handwriting. But most of the time, I think you would be able to do one of the intermediate records. So there's also a way you can choose language. So if you went on a mission somewhere else, for example, my husband, he went to Italy on his mission. And so he likes to index Italian records. And you can see that there's a long list of different languages that are available. So that's another way that you could help people from around the world, is if you have expertise in a language, to be able to help by doing indexing in a different language. Another thing you can do is you can mark your favorites. So if there's certain projects that you like to do, up here next to it, there's a star, and you can click on the star.
Yeah, well, the scanners are available now.
And you can see that the star becomes yellow up there. And then if you go over here,
I know.
it says favorites. And then everything that you have marked as a favorite will show up over here.
Well, good.
Berry that I just marked now shows up in my favorites. So it would be a fast way to get back to my favorite projects, because once you start indexing, you're going to find that there are certain projects that you really love to do. And so you want to just keep doing them and not try something new until they run out. So they all do run out, unfortunately, and we all kind of cry when our favorite projects go away. Okay, so that's how you find a project. So let's say I'm going to try and find a project here. I'm going to click on a Virginia birth record.
That place opened and never thought about it.
And this is what happens when it comes up. And I'm actually gonna not use this one, I don't think.
And then it was just like, this is why I'm here.
Oh my goodness.
There's no other.
There's two kinds of records that you're probably going to see. You're gonna see what's called a register, which has a lot of names on one page. Or you may see a different record that just has one name on the page. So to start with, we're just going to do one of the ones that has one name on the page. So I'm going to open this one that I've already previously selected, and it's called Wisconsin Death Records.
Husband took everything, put it on the thing for the dump.
Yeah.
And when you open up an indexing record, you can see that the first thing over here on the side, it says image 1 of 5, and it says, should this image be indexed? So
Right.
you look at the image and you decide if it has information that you're going to have to index. This one looks like it's good. So I'm going to mark it yes and go on to the next image.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look at it. And if it looks like it's something that I could index, then I'm going to say yes. Do that through all of the images in my batch.
But I just,
Now, occasionally, you may find out that the person who has taken the pictures has taken a picture of one image 2 times. And up here, where it says, should this image be indexed, there's a drop-down menu. So if there is an exact copy of one of the documents, then you would mark it no duplicate image. And sometimes you'll get a page that doesn't have anything on it, or it might be a cover page from a roll of microfilm or something like that. If it doesn't have any information on it that you can index, you would mark it no extractable data. But this one has information I can use, so I'm gonna click on it, and then I'm gonna click on this next one, and then this will take me to the page where I'm gonna start to index. And sometimes when you go to an indexing page, you will find out that there's somebody that has already started the project but hasn't completed it. And in that case, what you would want to do is go through and check the work of the other person. This is actually a project that I started working on this morning. And so I'm just going to go through to one of the blank ones, and we're going to work on it. But the easiest way to learn how to index is to actually go through and do it. So we're going to go through a couple of examples. And I'm going to try and give you some information about the process that you go through when you index. So first of all, if you look here on the left-hand corner, you can see that there are 4 little buttons. And this button up here is the zoom in, which I'm going to do because I have to have everything big. And if you want to zoom out, underneath it is the minus button, so you can zoom out. I'm going to zoom back in. There are 2 other buttons. This one right here. You hover over it, you can see it says tools, and you click on it and you can see that you have the opportunity to rotate left, right. This one right here is invert. If you click on it, it will make it so that it's just, it's inverted. And sometimes it's easier to read a record that's inverted than one that isn't. So sometimes that's helpful. And then
Well,
this one right here is called adjust image. This might be the one that you would use more often than the invert one. But sometimes if the writing is really light, if you use this adjust image button, you can make it less bright or more bright and contrast it. So you can adjust it so that it's easier to read. And sometimes the person who has taken the pictures that hasn't gotten the brightness exactly right. So this can be very helpful in adjusting the image so that you can see the writing better. And then after you've done that, you just click on apply. Okay, so let's take a look at this record, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a few instructions about things that you need to be aware of when you're indexing. So the first thing is that we index exactly what we see. And so sometimes when you see a name, we don't have this problem here, but sometimes there might be a name that's abbreviated. So for example, a lot of times you see the name William abbreviated WM. Even though we're pretty sure that is for a William, we are still going to put it over here in the field as WM, because what we do is we index what we see in the document. Okay, so probably the most important thing, one of the most important things I'm going to tell you tonight is when you first start to do a project, you need to go to what is called project instructions. And you can instruct the project instructions in several different places on your indexing page. One place is right here. And you can see as you hover over it, it says project instructions. If you go up to the help button, the project instructions are right there. And also, if you scroll down to the very bottom of the page where you're going to put in all of your information, there is a link to the project instructions. So when you index, every project has different instructions. So it's very important that you click and read the project instructions before you start to index. So this is saying it's death records, and then there's examples. And I love the examples that you can find in the project instructions, because what they do is they give you a sample page that has everything that you're going to have, usually everything that you're going to have to index. And then they show you exactly how to do it. So what I do, even though I've been indexing for a long, long time, when I could pull up a new project, I always have the project instructions on the next tab over, so that if I have a problem, if I can't find something, if I'm unsure of how to do it, I can refer quickly back to the project instructions and see exactly what I need to do. So that's really important to look at those project instructions at the beginning. And as I look at these, I can see there's a number of different things that I'm going to have to find. And one of the things that's tricky about indexing is you have over all of these fields over here on the side that you're supposed to fill in. And sometimes you don't need to use every single field. And so that's another way that the project instructions can help you, because if you see a field and you think, oh, I don't know if I need to put in the state file number, I can go over here and I can see, oh, is there a state file number? Oh, this one doesn't have a state file number. So maybe what I need to do is look at another example. And so I'm going to go back to my project instructions. And there's another example of a death certificate. And I'm looking at this one, and it has a file number right there. So I can go back to my document, and I know that this is the number that I am supposed to be writing down. Let's see. So I'm going to put that down. And then it's going to ask me for the death county. So I look over here And sure enough, there it is right there, Iowa. So I'm going to type it in. And one thing about places in projects and indexing is that you need to do what the project wants you to do as far as a place name. And so you think to yourself, how do I know what I'm supposed to do? Well, another help that Family Search has given you as you index is these little purple question marks up here. So I'm wondering about Iowa. Well, Iowa's not too much of a problem, but sometimes, like if it's a long state like North Carolina, it might just have NC there. So I don't know if I can put that abbreviation NC or if I should spell out North Carolina. So I'm going to click on that that question mark. And oh, this is actually a county. But look what it says. It says, type the name of the death county as it was written. Do not correct misspellings or expand abbreviations. So I know if there's something that has been abbreviated, then I'm not going to spell it out, even though I might know what it means. Unfortunately, that's not true for every single project. And so that's why it's really important to check these check the project instructions and also to check the little purple question marks as you're indexing, so you'll know what to do. So the next thing it's asking me for is the name. So I'm going to type in John Snyder. And then it asks for his suffix. Well, I'm looking there. When they say suffix, that would be something like junior or senior, and there isn't one here. And so what you have to do, if there is an asterisk up here next to the field, like there is next to suffix, is you have to mark it blank. And there's two ways that you can mark something blank. You don't type the word blank in it, but you actually make it blank by using the control key. If you're on a PC, it's the control key and B. If you're on an Apple computer, I think it's Apple B, and it will mark it blank like that. So another way to do it is to go up here to these tools, and we'll talk more about the tools in a few minutes. But this first little X right here will also blank it. So it doesn't have a country here. We know that Wisconsin is in the United States, but since United States is not written on the document here, we can't put United States in. So we're going to have to mark that one blank too. And I'm going to go up here to the X. And you can see if I hover over it, it says mark the field blank. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to mark it blank. So now it's asking me for the residence city. And I'm looking around here and I cannot see if there is a resident city or not. So this might be a time when I'd want to go back to my instructions and look over here and see if there's a resident city that's shown in the instructions, and it looks like there isn't. So it looks like that's another place that I'm going to have to mark blank. I'm sorry? Oh, it's resident state, yeah. So I can't assume the resident state from just looking at this document, so I'm going to have to mark it blank.
Is that at the top?
I'm sorry?
State of Wisconsin at the top?
Yeah, so but it has to be, what it has to do, it has to be in the field, it has to say resident city. So there has to be a place on the document where it asks for the residents. So it's really tricky. Let's see if we can read the question mark. So it says here, do not assume the name of the state from other information in the document, such as the name of the county, town, or city. And so that's how you know that you don't put it in. So I'm going to blank that and blank that. And then we're going to look for the sex. It says the boy, so we're going to put male. It asks if there is a social security number. We're going to look around on our document and see if there is a social security number. There isn't, so we're going to mark that no. Then it asks for the date of death. So we're going to put that in October. And for some of the fields, you'll have a drop-down menu. So you can see here for the months of the year, there's a drop-down menu. October 10th, 1912. Then it asks for the birth month. So I'm going to go over here and I can see that it's April 2nd. Oops. 1891. And then I'm going to look for the birth country. So down here it says state or country. And the birthplace is, so this is a county. Pulaski, Iowa is a county and a city, so I'm not going to put anything in for the state because I cannot assume that Wisconsin is the state.
Worth County. County there,
So
country,
yeah, so it says state
state
or
or
country.
So it's
right,
Lost there, Iowa.
yeah. So the birth state, I don't know the birth state either because it's not written here. Let's look and see what the purple question mark says. It says select a state from the drop-down list. If the state was listed as the birth state, do not assume the name of the state from other information on in the document, such as the name of the county, town, or city. All right, let's go back and look at the project instructions. So can you see that on the example here, that they don't have the birthplace or the death place because it's not actually on the document. So we're going to put that one blank too. It asks for the father's surname. So I'm going to look for the father, see if the father's name is here. And his last name is Snyder. Oh, and look, here's another thing that we have to be careful of when we're doing indexing. Sometimes things will be crossed out. If something's crossed out and something's written on top of it, then you're going to put what's on top of it in the blank. If it were just crossed out and there wasn't anything else there, you would put whatever is crossed out. But here we're going to put Homer because it is written on top of the crossed out part. Oh, except that's the mother, sorry. Father's last name is Snyder. Okay, and then they're also asking for the registration month. So down here at the bottom of the page, it says filed. And so I can try and read that. I think it's, you guys that are here, help me. October 10th. No, wow. Okay, and then especially in these Wisconsin records, they ask you if it's been amended. So what they want you to do is to go back and look through it and see if there is anything in the record that has been crossed out or written over. And this one doesn't have anything, so I can say it's not amended. But for something that was crossed out, or if it had the word amended somewhere on the document, then I would mark it yes.
Marianne,
Okay, so
Marianne,
a couple of other things that you may run into as you're doing documents. Oh, do you have a question, Marianne?
I do. Where that name, the mother's name was amended, was changed, crossed out, and Homer was written on it, wouldn't that constitute an amendment? I think when I read the instructions.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yes.
Okay.
Crossed out.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. And one thing you should know about indexing is after you index it, somebody reviews it. Another person reviews it. And That's really important because it helps to have an extra set of eyes, because you forget to do things like just me doing that, not catching that there was an amendment there. Thanks, Marianne.
You may want to correct the spelling of the father's surname as well. You left out an N.
Is there somebody else asking a question that I can hear?
Well, on the father's surname, you just left the N out of Schneider.
So on the father's surname, you left an N out of Schneider.
Oh, you guys, thank you so much. Can you tell I'm nervous? You guys are making me nervous, even though I can't see most of you. Okay, let me tell you a couple of other things. So here in this one, they asked you for a surname. Sometimes they will ask you for a prefix. So a prefix would be something like Miss, Mrs., Reverend, Captain, that might show up in the document. But if it asks for the prefix, unless it actually says Miss, Mrs., or Reverend, you don't put it in. It's one of those things that unless it's actually written on the document, you don't include it. Sometimes you'll find an initial as part of a record, like it might be John C. Snyder. If there's an initial with a period after it, you can put the period in, but you don't have to. Yeah, you don't need to put in punctuation marks. So now I just want to help you with a few things that you can, that will be helpful as you do indexing. And one is all of these icons up here that are on this toolbar. So we're going to go through and talk about those one by one so that you know what each one of them does. So we'll start with this one. This one right here is what you use to return to the main indexing page. So if I click on this, it will take me back to where I started from. And now I can open my batch back up. And if you don't get through with a batch, it will take you back right where you were when you stopped before. So that's very convenient and very nice. This next thing right here is what's called a quality check. And when you get to the end of your indexing, you click on that, or sometimes it automatically comes up. And what it does is it goes back through and makes sure that you have done everything that you need to do. So for example, if I had come through here and I hadn't marked this blank, and I just left it blank like that, when the quality check goes through, it's going to show me, oh, you need to do something in this space. And so then I know that I have to go Control B and mark it blank before I can submit it. And you know, I love the quality check, especially when you're beginning indexing, because it helps you to find errors. So like if you leave out a number in a date, or if you forget to do a blank, or there's just a number of different things that the quality check will find out that will help you to make your submission so it'll be better before you submit it. Okay, so that's that one. This is the submit button. And also when you get to the end of your indexing batch, there is a submit button at the bottom. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to the 5th image here, even though we haven't done this one. But at the bottom, you can see, I don't know if I can't see it very well because of I don't know, does my screen, can you guys see the submit button?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so yeah, so the submit button is there, so you can submit it from the last image, or you can also submit it from up here with a little paper airplane. Okay, so this one right here, this next one is marking the field blank, and then the one that's to the right of it is marking the whole entry blank. So if I clicked on this, in fact, I'm going to do it right now since I haven't filled it in. It will fill everything in with a blank like that. And I'll tell you when I have used that, sometimes you might get a birth certificate where all you have is the name of a person. So rather than go through and blank, 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 blank on everything, you could mark it blank there, and then you could just go to the place and put the person's name in. And so sometimes it'll save you a little bit of time if you use that blank. This one right here is mark the field unreadable. So sometimes when you're indexing something, you might come to a name that where you can't read the handwriting. And when that happens, if you can't read it at all, you can mark it unreadable. So let's go down here and let's just pretend we can't read the surname. If I couldn't read it at all, I could click there and you can see that it marks it unreadable, much like the blank there. So there's other things that you can do if you have trouble with handwriting. Let's say that I was looking at this name right here and I could not read one letter. So I'm typing Randall and I can't figure out what that second letter is, if it's an O or an A. I could do this. I could put a question mark in instead of one letter. If you're doing a batch and there's more than one letter that you can't read. So let's say I'm typing in Randall and I can't read 2 or 3 letters after that. I can put an asterisk in and then just put in the letters that I can see. So maybe that's all I can read is the R and the 2 L's at the end. That asterisk means that there's more than one letter between the R and the 2 L's, but I can't figure out what they are. So that's 3 ways that you can do things, fill out one of the fields if you can't read the handwriting. Okay, this one right here is a plus. It adds an entry. So we're going to go to a different batch right now because I want to show you a couple of things with, oops. I want to do that one. I'm going to do this. So this is the other kind of record that you might see, and it's called a register. Oh, that's not the one I wanted either. Okay, so I'm going to use my plus button here because I can't see it very well. And you can see that there's a lot of different entries. And when I look over here on the side, it shows that as kind of a default, Family Search has given me 40 entries. So Family Search thinks that there's probably about 40 people that are on this document that I'm going to have to put into different entries. So what if there were 42 different things that you had, different entries that you needed? What you would do is you would go up here to the plus and you can insert entries. So you get to the end of your 40 entries and you still have 2 more people, you could add 2 more entries after the last entry like that. This adding entries is also helpful if you skip a line and when you go back maybe to check at the end and you notice, oh dear, I didn't do this one line and oh, am I going to have to redo everything? No, you don't have to redo everything. You can go to the one that's before it and you can, or the one that, that you're on and you can say, click on after the current entry and it will add one there. And so that's very helpful if you kind of make a mistake and you need to add an entry somewhere in the middle of the document. Okay, so that's add an entry. This one is the garbage can and it's deleting an entry. And you could use it to either delete the current entry that you're on or to delete all the blank entries. So let's say that I get to the end of this one right here and I'm looking and I don't think there's going to be 40 different entries. If I get to my very last entry and I still have a lot of blank entries after it, I can go up to the garbage can and click on all the blank entries and click on delete and look what happens to mine now. It's gotten rid of every single entry except the 41 that I had before because they were all blank. I only had one that had information on them. So I'm going to add some entries back for a minute. So I'm going to add 39 entries. And now I have my 40 entries back. All right, so these over here are icons that will help you if you need to duplicate information. So let's say, like this one right here, it looks like, as I look down through it, it looks like most of these, and I'm going to look over here to see, it shows over here that they're all in 1882. So if I don't want to type 1882 in every single entry, I can type in 1882, and then I can go up to this
There.
here, which is the kind of the triangle with the lines underneath it, and click on it. And that dittos on every entry. If I look through the entries now, every single one of them will have 1882 as the birth year. So that's really helpful. So that you don't have, it kind of helps you if you are typing and you don't want to type as much. So another thing you can do, let's say that you have a name that's really of a family, you're doing a family and there's a big long name, and I'm just going to put Meadows, which is one of the names on this sheet, and this probably wouldn't be a problem. But especially the big long names that have difficult spelling, if it's not every entry in the project, but it's like 5 or 6 people, when you go to the next entry, when you go to the surname, you can click on this first triangle with one line, and it copies the text from the same field of the previous entry onto this entry. So I'm going to click on it, and now Meadows shows up there. So that can be really helpful too. Sometimes if there's a birth country and there's a lot of people with, or birth county and a lot of people with the same county, you can use that little ditto, one after another for as long as you have the same thing repeating. Okay, so that's that one. I'm not going to even talk about this one because I don't think you will use it very much, but it's copying text from the previous entry into the selected entry. But I haven't used this one hardly at all. And so I don't want to, I'm giving you a lot of information tonight, so we're not going to talk too much about that one. This one is handwriting examples. And this can be very helpful if you have one of those difficult pages where you've got lots of letters that are hard to figure out. So that can be helpful. This one right here is sharing a batch. So sometime you might really get stuck and you might need to share a batch with somebody. So for example, if you're indexing in your ward and there's somebody in your ward that's a super great indexer, you could call that person up on the phone, and then you can click where it says share a batch, and it will give you these 2 different fields. One says copy this link and paste it into a message to share with a helper, or share the batch code with a helper. So if you're sending an email to someone and you want to share a batch, you would probably use the link. But what usually happens with me, with people in my ward, is they call me on the phone and they say, oh, I have this indexing question. Can I share a batch? And they'll just give me this little, this code here, which is the batch number. And let me show you. So this number right here is the same as the number that's up here on the batch. And then I, as a helper, can go over here and I can open the shared batch by just putting in the code here and then help the person. So you probably won't be helping people to start with, but you may be able to get help by using that share a batch. So sometimes if you are doing records that are from a foreign country, or sometimes even United States records where you have people who speak Spanish or other languages, you may need to use the international characters, which are found right there. And then this last one, as we mentioned before, are those ever important project instructions that you're going to be looking at all the time to be able to find out exactly what you should be doing with the indexing batch. So let's see. Let me show you a couple of other things that I think might be helpful for you. And one is back here on this page. So let me just show you a couple of things that will help you here, that will help you to be able to see your progress as you index. So down here, you'll have this little section that's called progress. And you can see how much you have indexed in a month. You can, if you're a reviewer, then you can see how much you've reviewed. You can change it from your current month to your previous month. You can look at like your previous quarter and see if you've done any indexing. You can look at your year or your all-time level and see how much you've indexed. And then you can also do a chart. Well, that's the chart. And you can also see which, if you click on the projects, you can see which kind of projects you've worked on in the last little while. So that's one thing that's kind of helpful and let's see. So there's another thing that you'll see is there's groups. And for you, I have a bunch of groups because of my mission, but each of you should have at least 2 groups, one for your stake and one for your ward. So when I click on my ward, I can see how much indexing has been done in the last year. And once again, you can look at the year, you can look at the previous year and see how much indexing was done. And you can do it by month and quarter and year and all times. So if I looked at all time, what my ward's done, you can see that we've done okay with indexing, it looks like, in our ward. And you can also see, I'm not sure if everybody can see all of the people in their ward. That might be something that's just for people that are consultants, yeah. But if you're a consultant in your ward, I think you probably should be able to see it. Can you see it? Okay. All right, so there's also a way, I'm going to go back now to the web indexing page. And there's also a way that you can set goals. They have changed this. Okay, let's see. So you can set a goal for indexing. And so let's say I wanted to have a goal of indexing. Then it will show you where you are. And you can see I'm not doing very well this month, so I haven't. But it will kind of track your progress compared to what you set as your goal. I'm going to set 110. How about that? I'm almost there. Okay, so that's just another thing that you can do. I'm going to show you I'm just going to show you some examples of different kinds of records. This is one that you might want to try to start out with. It's Liberia, and this is a beginning project. And when you look at it, you can see it's one of those directories. And it's a little tricky because it has some things that are a little bit different. But you can see that the handwriting is really easy to read. And in this one especially, it's really important to read your project instructions and how to index the records, because there's some specific rules, because there's lots of numbers that show up in here that are kind of different than a regular record that you would see. But once again, it shows you everything that you have to fill in. And that's very helpful as you do something for the first time. So there's one thing that I didn't show. There's a couple things I haven't shown you. Up here at the very top, there's these 3 tabs. And one's the help tab that has links to the kinds of helps that we've already talked about, and some additional ones like keyboard shortcuts. And then there's this data entry one. So there's different ways that you can do indexing. One is using the form entry, which is the one that we're doing right here. And let's see if I can get to that. Another way that you could do it is what's called a table entry. And a table entry looks like this. And sometimes when you're doing a register, it's easier to have it like this than to have it down on the side. So you might want to try out the table entry and see if it works for you. The column entry is sometimes helpful when you get through to go to the column entry and make sure you've got everything filled out. Or if you know that everything is going to be, so for example, if sometimes if you're doing a big long register, it's helpful to use the table, the column entry just to fill in everything quickly, because you can like put in, like if I was going to put in the name of the county, and I'm just putting in Iowa, which isn't for this one, it's a Wisconsin county. But if I wanted to fill in everything on in that column, all I would have to do is type in the column and then go up here to my ditto, and it dittos down through everything. So sometimes the column entry can be really helpful too. I'm going to go back to the form entry. And there's also a link to your international characters here. And then this is one thing you can make the toolbar disappear if you want it to. I would never do that because you need to use the toolbar usually. And then the last thing that's there is another very helpful thing called the ruler. And the ruler brings up this shaded line. And so when you're doing a register, it's very helpful so that you know where you are, and you can just kind of bring down the ruler as you go through and finish each entry. So let's do a little bit of this one just so that you can kind of see what it's like. So up here, it asks for the county, and instead of having a name of a county, it's got a number. So I'm going to look over here, and I can see that 24 is right there. And so all I have to do is click on that drop-down menu. So that's the nice thing about this one, this particular project, is that there are lots of drop-downs where all you have to do is look for them. So the next one is the census district, and we can see that it's right here. And if I can't remember exactly where it is, I can go over here to my example, and I can see, oh, it's number 2. And look, there's the 2. It shows me right where it is on the page. And so it's very helpful to be able to go back. Oh, yeah, it's right there. And then I can use the drop down, and that says it's 2. I'm going to have to scroll up. And then it asks for the ID number and the household ID. Maybe I don't remember where that is exactly. So I can look at its number 3, and oh, it's over here on this side of the page. So I can look for it. There it is right there. And I can go 011 and put it in. And then I can go down and start doing entry number 1. So I'm going to do Morgan. And so let's look at what it says about names here. So it says type the surname as it was written. It may be written either before or after the given name. So I'm going to kind of have to look at this and figure out, and hopefully there's names, the names are familiar enough. At least one name is familiar enough that I can figure out what is the surname and the given name. And I think actually that they have the surnames first here. So I'm going to put David Morgan. And then you have to go through and find out what his relationship is. It says here that he's 09. So I'm going to look at that. So he's an other relative. And then it asks about the new household identifier. And I've already looked at the instructions, and I know that if he's not the head, then I have to mark this no. So I'm going to mark it no. And then I can fill in his sex, his age, his marital status, and his birthplace by looking at other columns here. And if I can't figure out what they are exactly, I can go once again, either back to the project instructions right there, my example, or I can click on the purple question mark, and that can help you to be able to find it. So just to end today, I want to share with you something that you probably remember this, but back a couple of years in general conference, President Nelson said, well, this is actually at the beginning of the pandemic. He said, while worshiping in the temple is presently not possible, I invite you to increase your participation in family history, including family history research and indexing. I promise that as you increase your time in the temple and family history work, you will increase and improve your ability to hear him. And it's my testimony to you that we certainly can grow closer to the Savior as we do this family history work, and as we index and help others to be able to find names so that people can receive temple blessings. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And just to let you know, if you ever have an indexing question and I can help you with it, my phone number, my email, I think are in the consultant's information. I would be glad to help anybody. I've got Zoom and I can do a Zoom class with you. So if you need help, just let me know.
Actually, before we do that, just stop the recording. No, I'll probably stop when you end it.